In this section, we are going to explore the way in which you should treat your heart when it suffers an emotional trauma that leads you to feel a blow, which then translates into a pain that is expressed not only in your chest, but in the other areas of your body. People who experience a trauma of this type usually feel concentrated pain at first, which then expands. If you think about it, here we are talking about someone who kissed you very violently on an emotional level. That is precisely why you feel a blow of this type. Usually, these blows are associated with some type of emotional abuse, and that abuse is always related to the fact that that person who hurts you makes you feel as if you were worthless to him, but in general, as if you were worthless to the world. If you notice, this is where what causes you the most pain is expressed, and with the passage of the time, it translates into that constant fear that you feel of receiving that pain again that often paralyzes you. Precisely due to the fact that the trauma of these characteristics leads you to not want to re experience the situation that put you in the position of experiencing what hurt you. Therefore, the way to solve a trauma of this type will always involve helping you recover from the blow, concentrating on the situation that led you to receive that bad treatment. An example that I can give you in this regard, so that you have greater clarity about what I am talking about here, is a moment in which your partner, due to his own problems, treats you unfairly and, above all, disproportionate to what you have given him. This word is key so that you can understand why you receive and suffer from these blows, because it is something much more than you can bear. An example of this, which was a case I worked on, is that of a young man who was asked by his partner if he had been intimate with another woman in the past. And my client, without any bad intentions, said yes, because he did not want to lie to his partner at the time, and because he believed that by doing so he was being honest. His partner hoped that apparently he was a virgin, and instead of leaving it there, she began to tell him about all the sexual partners she had had, which were more than my client had, for whom his partner at the time was his second relationship. Also, as an act of revenge, she told him about the anatomy of her partners and how beautiful they apparently were. If you look closely, this is an act of pure evil. It was not necessary to go in there. And that was precisely a blow that my client could not absorb, because in addition, his partner, who had sexual relations with other men, whom he considered anatomically superior to my client, reproached him for not being as pure as he expected. If you look, this process of disproportionality that I am talking to you about here takes place. The girlfriend's reaction was far superior and unfair to the fault that my client could have committed. So, the first thing I want you to do here is think about times when one of your partners treated you disproportionately. Because it is true, we all make mistakes in life, mistakes we regret. But even when we are grown, we do not deserve to be treated so unfairly. With this, what I want to induce is that you define the blows you received from your ex partner, because that is the problem you are facing in your heart, as phase one of this healing process. There you will find the explanation of why you feel that pain in your psychic heart that you cannot get rid of. That is precisely the situation that you do not want to experience again, which I told you about at the beginning of this section. On that basis, precisely the treatment that we are going to use here arises, which is psychic dissolution. which is the best technique used to solve a problem of this type. You receive that blow due to a disproportionate punishment that your partner subjects you to when you are with him or her or when the relationship ends. Many people take advantage of the breakup of a relationship to get out all the frustration they bring. Things are said that should not be said at that time, even at the expense of damaging the other person's ego or confidence. Well, there you find another explanation of why there are relationships that end with a blow to the heart. So, since we have identified the cause of this blow, the fundamental thing here is that you learn to dilute that blow so that the pain you feel from its cause becomes increasingly imperceptible. If your partner said things that were out of proportion to you, the key is to be able to push those thoughts away from yourself and observe the pain your partner is feeling. I want you to project that dark stain that arises from his heart and see that the bad treatment that person gives you arises as a consequence of his own suffering. Deep down, the one who hits you like that does it because he wants to make you fall along with him, precisely because of the fear of his loneliness or his insecurities. Once we have recognized this, I want us to move on the next phase of this treatment. I want you to recognize that you were not weak for receiving that blow, but that you were actually defenseless, because it was your partner who took advantage of you in a moment of defenselessness, when you couldn't do anything to reverse that blow. If you notice, it was your partner who actually acted like a coward by hurting a person in a moment of vulnerability, like you were at the moment you received the blow. On that basis, you must remember that you are a very powerful person. The only problem you have faced up to this point is that you have not been able to discover and accept your true talents and powers, which is something that will allow you to never fall again in the blows that another person may subject you to. And finally, what you must do is recognize that this blow you suffered is nothing other than a great opportunity to discover and exercise your true power. If I tell you all this, it is precisely because the blows that other people subject or hurt to generate the effect under which we end up believing that we are weak people. And what I have taken care of here is precisely to induce you into a process in which I want you to begin to think about that power of yours that exists and that is in a latent state and that you must learn to develop. The key here is that you were not weak, but simply that you lived a moment in your life in which another person struck your heart out of pain to make you feel what he was feeling, which, as I told you, is the attitude of a coward. That is precisely why we are going to use a part of this module, so that you can strengthen your heart so that these blows no longer affect you. In the next section, we are going to explore the treatment used in a heart that shuts down and fades due to an emotional trauma. I see you there.